Hi guys, it's Hengist here and a big welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're all doing really well. This is basically Blitzkrieg and this is game 2, bridge by bridge, a two-parter. But first let's get into the news because there's a lot going on and I want to sort of catch up on what's happening. As we can see, this is the overall operational plan. First Army and the BEF are moving on into Belgium as we're in day 1. In the south, going towards the Sudan, we've got Rommel and Army Group A moving. Whilst the Dutch, literally in the water, are basically guarding their frontiers. The drone, the heavy drone of Ju-52 anti-Jews can be heard overhead. The panzers are moving. They're moving up rapidly into Belgium. And the Germans are already tactically adjusting to their moves, but keeping to their plan as the BEF start to encounter refugees racing away from the front lines. So without further ado, let's have a look at what we've researched for the set. And obviously we've just done the EBEN EMAEL, but this is our operational map for where we're trying to go in the campaign. But today's focus will be, and it's all about the bridges, at Velderwezel. Now this is a composite game. We haven't got it exactly the same because there are a number of actions on the bridge. In fact, there was a bunker underneath at Velderwezel. But what we've tried to do is encapsulate the spirit of what was going on, and we're looking at Stahl or steel as opposed to granite, which was attacking EBEN EMAEL. As you can see from these photographs, the Germans basically managed to take the bridges quite effectively. But it's all about the detail for us and trying to do the best we can with what we have to simulate and get it as close to history as possible. So today this is the set, a bridge, and basically the Luftlandstürmer are going to try and take that. Okay, let's look at the Belgian forces that are defending the bridge. This is a composite of a sort of home defence force with some regulars arriving. On the whole, they're basically reluctant trained and can move to confident trained as green troops based on roles. We've got bicycle troops there, and we'll also see a counter-attack with some tanks, as seen with King Leopold here. The German forces, on the other hand, really consist of the Staffel Steel, which is effectively 3 platoons of Pioneer Luftlander Sturm, and they're coming in on DFS gliders again with a seize the bridge initiative, and they're going to try and take that. Later they'll be reinforced, as are the Belgians. But let's now look at the rules themselves and what are we actually doing. We use Flames of War version 2 and 3, but effectively we've composited this and supported it with Achtung Panzer because what we're trying to do is land, sea and air combat. And as you can see from some of the work we've been doing previously on some of our other videos, we're trying to include all aspects so it's interlocking, and this is really important. This is all very, again, inspired by the comics, inspired by Commando comics as a medium to sort of tell and narrate the history of World War II. But critical to this is the battle deck, which sort of gives us the fine detail. And we were working on this about 6 years ago, but it's got weather, it's got chance, it's got all those sort of things. And frankly, it's amazing what a dog cart can do. It could lift gun to ground. It's the sort of thing, but you can make reaction tests to stop it. So ultimately, it's a fast system which has got a lot of the sort of tactical problems that you face in combat, and no plan survives first contact. And importantly, it's not a competition system. It's about stimulating basically narrative wargaming. Okay, let's look at the mission now. Basically for the Belgians with their civil defence force, they are going to be supported by regulars as they come up. They've got to hold that bridge however they can do it, basically for 9 turns. At the end of that phase, they will then be ordered to counter-attack, and there is another 9-turn phase battle following that. So without further ado, let's get into it. Well, EBEN EMAEL was exciting, but this is just as tough. And so at the town, around the bridge, we've got 2 Belgian home defence units in the buildings. We've also got across the bridge the engineers and the bunker and the AA platoon, which was to prove to be a real thorn in the German side. As you can see from here, they have a commanding firing position and were to pepper that house, the cottages on the other side. Under the bridge, basically, you've got demolition charges being laid by the pioneers, and they can't be activated till turn 6. But in the air, the gliders from Stahl are inbound, and they land immediately basically surprising the enemy who are on shock and awe. One glider actually lands very badly indeed and crashes, but miraculously all the teams survive. As you can see from the wreckage, real problems. An MG turret as an automatic sort of ambush is played, but that doesn't play a part in the first part of the game. The Pioneers go straight in, no questions about it. They race upon the bunker and the Pioneer platoon, and a gun battle and an assault begins straight away as the grey van basically is pushed off the side of the road. The bunker is blown, and the Germans are straight in on the attack, moving on to complete and destroy the Pioneers, who break, some falling back to the cottages, but most are captured. The second wave of gliders lands. This time a second glider crashes. That doesn't do as well, with eight men killed. And at the bridge, the alarm is raised, and basically immediately the Home Defence Force begins moving into its forward positions. As you can see from here, it's a small little town, but the glider troops who've landed are moving forward very, very quickly. This is about speed and time. All the Belgians can do is sort of move their equipment about and try and make a hasty and extemporised defence as the Germans prepare to launch an attack straight away across the bridge, which they begin to do, as you can see from these photographs here. But they fail reaction and fail to spot the demolition charges under the bridge as the Belgian Defence Company moves forward. They decide to take the fire truck forward as well to form a blocking force for the bridge. And this ultimately comes into play as the Germans race up that bridge, and you can hear the hobnail boots as they clatter over that metal bridge, racing basically to take their prize. But what you can see from here is the bridge basically is now blocked, and how ingenious the Belgians were. As they race forward, they come under incredible small arms fire and start to lose bases all over the place, but they keep going with that sort of tenacity that fearless troops have, and press forward away from the cottages towards their prize. But as they get closer and as the fire intensifies, a reaction is made, and we suddenly find that two men are sent down below the bridge who spot the engineers, and there's a pistol shootout, but none of them can carry weapons. Ultimately they managed to remove the charges, which was a huge success because it could have been a disaster. And then EBEN EMAEL opens fire and basically blows the living hell out of that bridge, killing what is left effectively on the bridge, bar the command team, who just managed to push the fire truck out of the way. So the Belgians hold the bridge and gain 25 points, and the glider infantry are compelled to withdraw. But just as you get a cuppa, hang on, you can't, because the Belgians are counter-attacking, and straight away they basically decide to approach and attack the bridge. Just as canisters are dropped to supply those on the bridge, one falls in the drink and the other one back further down the road. The Germans have to form an extemporised defence as tanks and infantry now move forward up the bridge themselves, but then Stukas. And there's a huge amount of Stukas coming up, and we have the what we call the Haunted Jericho roll, which means you have to make a motivation test immediately on hearing a Stuka before they even roll to hit. But this is very effective, and it starts to deplete the morale, let alone anything else, of the Belgians. But they've got guts today, and they assault hard. The AA peppering that building, and the bunker now starts to come into play, in which the glider infantry decide to try and knock it out before it becomes a real thorn in their side. And again they assault that, but are repelled. Whilst at the village itself, more and more Belgian infantry is piling up the road. The cobbles are echoing with heavy footfalls. The tanks rumble over the bridge, and we've got a real battle on our hands. A small arms fire basically disables a machine gun on the tankette. Motorbikes basically come up, spewing forth ammunition and sending bullets flying all over the place, along with the tanks. And it looks pretty bad. It looks bad indeed for the Fallschirmjägers, who are taking casualties left, right and centre. The canister now drifts towards a barge, but no one dares go out and retrieve it. And we get the glider reserves appearing as well, which is a machine gun platoon and a mortar platoon, desperately needed. As again, we get another Stuka attack. It's wailing sirens, bringing terror again to the Belgians, and starts to cause casualties and problems. But the Belgian tanks now move forward with the infantry and start vigorous assaults. But the Germans basically are struggling now because they haven't really got into cover. They're running low on ammunition, and both the German platoons, what's left of them, fail tank terror. So the tanks actually get across the bridge along with infantry, and basically more Belgians are moving up from behind to run across the bridge. And even some of the Belgians decide to try and swim for it and cross the river, causing masses of problems for the depleted glider-borne infantry. But then, as the Belgian infantry get closer, they are stopped by fire. And the tanks also run into big problems because those pioneers, they basically now show their mettle. And in a series of counter-attacks, they destroy the tanks and repel the Belgians, much to the relief of the German commander. But there's still at least 2 to 3 infantry platoons racing towards that bridgehead. They go back for some ammunition, but as they're going back, there's more infantry coming in and assaulting. The Germans are trying to issue covering fire with mortars and actually drive off the motorbikes. But it's still very, very tense, and they decide to dig in with what's left. The ammunition is still there, but no one can get to it. The swimmers, however, are struggling in that current, failing every single skill check, as we see Belgian mortars now that have arrived open fire on the buildings, and then the Belgians attack the little cottages themselves this time, and basically manage to get in because the Germans, just as they're about to fire, fail to roll a one and roll out of ammunition. There's a fight, and the Germans, what's left of that platoon, basically is driven off. They captured some Belgians and let these guys go. Subsequently were blown up by a Stuka. And all that's really left is basically the hero of the platoon. But the Belgians keep moving forward, even under mortar fire. And all that's left now are basically the 3rd platoon, and that occupies the cottages again. It's got fresh ammunition, but it's desperate stuff. The mortars are going off left, right and centre from both sides on that bridge. And we're seeing casualties mount horrendously. And then in the penultimate turn, another Stuka attack, which proved to be decisive, hitting 2 platoons, both of which were the defence force, and both of which broke. This effectively caused the company to break, and basically sent a motivation check to the regulars, and they too also failed motivation and subsequently broke and fled. And so, absolutely astounded, the Fallschirmjägers looked out of the window and they couldn't believe it. But it was a German victory, and very, very well won. But crikey, what a game! Well, both sides were on 25 points on this, and well deserved by both. It's been fantastic so far. The casualties, though, on the bridge were quite heavy. The Belgians losing 4 platoons, the Fallschirmjäger 2. But even though they're reluctant, the Belgians really showed their mettle today, and I think it's important to note that. They fought with what they had, as the German panzers now, literally, who were due to arrive in the following turn, would race over the bridge, whilst there's chaos and destruction from the Luftwaffe all around Belgium at the moment. German infantry are on the move, and we've really learned a huge amount, especially about the hinge point of EBEN EMAEL, the bunkers and everything we learned about how they could have controlled that fire over the Maastricht sector. The shape charges themselves and the effect that they would have. And glider-borne operations aren't quite the piece of cake that people believe. Hitler was to personally decorate all of them, except the drunk, who never got an invitation. And Lieutenant Witzig was to survive the war and has obviously written a book about his exploits. And so now it's on to Holland, where we've got a massive airborne carpet being dropped. But before we go, I want to make a megaton thanks to Phil Short, Mike Boos and Craig at Gaming Models for all they've done. So please continue to support our BLITZKREIG campaign, and in the meantime, enjoy your wargaming, and it's over and out for me. Bye for now.